Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening. My name is Mike Schumann. I'm here with my friend Marta Rees. Say hi, Marta.
Hi.
Hi. So we're going to do an activity today. This is the first of 3 calls of a series that I am calling the most meaningful conversation of your life. This is kind of like an introduction into the service market economy, also the Karmic Margin Call Project. There's going to be a lot of information about that, but I don't really feel a need to really expand upon that today. What I think is really needed is just sharing information, really sitting down with each other and giving each other the space to talk with each other, to listen to each other. So this is a series of 3 different conversations that you can use, you can implement in your own conversation. And really, it's just a matter of we're not selling anything. We're not trying to impose anyone's will upon anyone else. This is just sharing information, and what you do with it is completely up to you. I believe that the key to the future, the key to our evolution, and really the key to doing what we want to do with our time is starting to relate to each other with emotional intelligence and really, really listening. So this first exercise is called If I Ruled the World. And what it does is it helps you to get out of your head and just into your heart. Now, it's a brainstorming activity. It's a creativity activity. It's also a chance to communicate and let your voice be heard. But first and foremost, it's a listening activity. Okay, so Marta, what I'm going to do is I have a clock right here. And, you know how this works. You just, start talking and, you begin every sentence with, if I ruled the world, and then finish the sentence. Just let your mind flow. Use your surroundings if you get stuck. Repeat something over and over again if you get stuck. Whatever. You can use nonverbals. If you get stuck and say, if I ruled the world, I would blah, 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 blah. So, I want to give you the choice here, Marta. Do you want to start and jump in, or would you like me to start with, with the first round, if I ruled the world?
It's really up to you.
Okay, I'm going to jump in then. Okay.
Great.
So this first round, we just kind of get into it and just let yourself say whatever you want to say. And then, Marta, when I'm done with my 1 minute, I'm going to let you tell me what you heard and why it struck a chord with you, and why you feel it was important that you heard it. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I'm going to start the clock here, and I'm going to go now. If I ruled the world, people would just feel comfortable with being themselves. If I ruled the world, pacing, like I am doing in my room right now, would start generating more thought. If I ruled the world, my son would remain sleeping peacefully so that we can have this conversation. If I ruled the world, I would look forward to the moment that my son would be able to join us in a conversation like this. If I ruled the world, everybody would take a moment to just sit down and be with each other and just really listen deeply. If I ruled the world, listening would be the most important skill that anyone could develop. If I ruled the world, monsters would be our friends. If I ruled the world, people would lead with their heart before their head. If I ruled the world, this time would seem like it would be going by a little faster. If I ruled the world, I could look at the clock and see, oh, I am almost done. If I ruled the world, I would say that I am very appreciative that I just finished this exercise, because that has been 1 minute.
That was great.
Great. So what did you hear, Marta? What came up for you, and what did you want to reflect on?
Oh my gosh, it was like a 2x4 hitting me in the head, because it really is a part and parcel of everything that I'm motivated around, which is this idea of leading with your heart before your head.
Yeah.
And as you know, a colleague of ours, mentor, probably Vicki King, has this great quote in one of her books that says, put your head in your heart's hands.
Yes.
And that is what I tend to do every day of my life. I also am a big fan of Og Mandino, and he, if you've ever read any of his stuff, one of his scrolls is all about, I greet this day with love in my heart.
Yes.
And in a lot of the different types of activities, programs I've taken, retreats, that I've done with a number of different thought leaders, one of the things that came up for me the most, and that I kind of crafted in one of the programs, was that I was going to create this kind of line of demarcation, and that from this point forward, it was my heart and my art that really decides my actions and creates my future and my legacy. So
Wonderful.
this focus, on heart intelligence, emotional intelligence, that's the thing that I heard the loudest, listening as a skill, as a very, very profound and effective skill.
Great. I think you're ready to jump right in then.
Okay, good.
Great. Yes. So whenever you're ready, I will start the clock, and I am just going to listen.
Okay. In my world, people would really navigate their lives based on their heart directives and their intuition. In my world, people would practice those skills like people would going to a gym and developing muscle. In my world, similar to you, people would do a lot more listening and a lot less talking, or making a lot less statements. In my world, it would be more of its kind of, would have like a Socratic type of flavor, where we're really curious and wondering and questioning things, and not being afraid of where the answers take us. So in my world, people would develop such incredible type of inner space skills, as I would say.
Absolutely. And that's time.
Yes.
That's time. Wow, that went by quickly for me.
That happened already? That was it?
Yeah, that was 1 minute, yes. So here is what I heard, and this is why it's so brilliant, that this is coming out even just in the warm-up. Practicing skills like you're going to a gym. It comes back to something that Tony Robbins said as well. Repetition is the mother of skill. So yes, we're practicing these skills. We're practicing this heart-centered communication and listening. Another thing that you said that really, really struck me was not be afraid of where the answers take us. And that's important. And as a matter of fact, that's something we will really hammer and address, on the third conversation of these two. But yes, not being afraid, not being afraid of vulnerability, so, there's, I'm practicing a little discretion on these conversations because I know that, it's our intention to have, people listening to it. But yeah, not censoring yourself, letting yourself say what you need to say and let it out with people that you trust and that you like and that, you want to work with, and not being afraid of, of what comes out. We're here to be that net, that catcher's net, to, be able to truly have those, to really embrace that vulnerability, face that fear head on, with support. Because when you do that, that transmutes into so much powerful emotion and so much, so much service, and that's what we're all about here, is really finding what do you have to offer to the world in service. And I think, the first thing we have to do is really just, drive through that fear first. So thank you. That is what I heard.
It's very transformational, because in the process of listening, so much can shift in our own belief system, in our own mind. That's why I talk about that inner space, the final frontier type of idea, because, we just don't, I forget my train of thought. So let's go on to the next thing.
Yeah, sure, no problem. No, that's what it's all about. Yes, absolutely. So we listen and we riff off of each other.
Exactly.
So yeah. So one thing I do want to say too, as we're going through this here, because I don't have notes in front of me. I'm there is no preparation. We just dive in and listen. So I do want to say that when somebody has these conversations, it's good to be one-on-one like Marta and I are doing. I would encourage you to gather into groups of 3. So I feel like that there is a third person with us, and that is, you, the listener, who is listening right now. So, we really want to create more opportunities to have conversations like this so that you can really get centered on whatever service it is you have to offer with the world. to offer to the world, I should say. And you can do so, knowing that, we've got your back, that your friends have your back, that your colleagues have your back. So that brings us into this next round where we're still going to say every sentence, in my world, or if I ruled the world. And I want you to bring it now into something that you really want to focus on, whatever that service it is that you have to offer to the world. And, I don't know for sure, but as this conversation starts circulating, I would like to really invite teachers, artists, entrepreneurs, service providers to have these kinds of conversations, and give us your feedback. Has it become one of the most important and meaningful conversations of your life? Has it led to an act of service? Those are the kind of things we want to know about. So, so after this conversation, I'm going to ask the listener to look over an article that I've written called The Rejected X Prize: How to Empower the Next Billion to Feed Themselves and Each Other. So I'm going to focus on that in this second round here. So, again, the service market is about, using these kind of conversations, this emotional intelligence, to reverse the laws of supply and demand. And I honestly believe that anybody who comes in contact with this material will be able to make a living doing what they are loving to do and what they're passionate about in service to others. So again, I'm not going to harp on that too much today. I just want to really exemplify that and model that in this conversation. So I'm going to let that be the focus as I drive through the second round of If I Ruled the World. So I'm going to take a quick sip here of my drink. And I'm going to go into another minute. And Marta, you're just going to listen and let me know what you hear and why it's, why it struck a chord with you, okay?
Great.
Okay. If I ruled the world, people would be in service to others. If I ruled the world, people would intuitively understand that the key to reversing the laws of supply and demand is just really being there for each other. When we do that, we decrease the value of exploited material resources, and we increase the value of human resources. If I ruled the world, people would work through their fear instead of avoiding it. If I ruled the world, people would embrace these three conversations that we're going to be having. If I ruled the world, the question circle, and the emotional hierarchy. If I ruled the world, people would understand that we don't necessarily live in a poverty of resources. We live in a poverty of time. If I ruled the world, we would know how to make the time for each other by having emotionally intelligent conversations. If I ruled the world, people would understand that this would benefit everyone, not just the disenfranchised, but also the affluent, because the affluent can tap into deeper emotional experiences, and the disenfranchised can have more empowered experiences through their material resources and access to material resources. And I went 10 seconds over, so I am done.
Wow, that goes so fast.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah. The biggest thing I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, I'm just jumping right in.
Yes, please. Good.
The biggest thing I heard, which was interesting, you said it differently than what I think modern day corporate environments relate to it. But this value of human resources.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I've heard it even expressed as like human capital. Where it just becomes like numbers and, how much is this, individual really costing me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like all of these, framed in all of these ways that doesn't really elevate the value of the human and the resources, and it's really there. It's where you emphasize, what word you stress, like value of human resources, like these resources, and what are these resources? So that struck me the most because it left me with the most questions. It left me with the most curiosity. Like, what are some of the resources that humans can develop that would become extremely valuable, more valuable, that it would, supersede any material consumer products that we might, you know. So how do you shift that? That's kind of where I'm left. So I'm left with
Marta, write down those questions. Write down those questions because the next exercise that we'll be recording next week is the question circle.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, but yes, absolutely. When you get underneath all of it, you know, even if you get underneath consumerism and materialism and all of that, it's all about how do we feel? You know, what is the feeling that we're going for, and can we sustain that feeling? That's really what comes up for me as I reflect on what you had just reflected back to me.
So cool. I'm writing that down, actually. I'm journaling. I like the idea of writing, handwriting.
Absolutely. And by the way, too, you know, these exercises, they're just as valuable, you know, journaling and writing, you know, free form of writing. I love the Artist's Way material by Julia Cameron, where she encourages you to do daily pages, you know, where you just free form and write. Feel free to take this exercise, you know, in my world or if I ruled the world, and just write for as, you know, long as you want and see just what comes out.
Very nice.
Great. So it's going to be your turn here in a minute, Marta. So when you do this round, what are we focused on? What are you focused on as far as this round of the exercise?
It's going to be another sort of layer of what my Visionality program was, or how I'm talking about it now is that it is the Visionality course, that it's an actual obstacle course. And then teaching people, and teaching people, creating a gamified kind of obstacle course through creativity and applying your imagination. I have all these and tools and stuff and techniques, but it's really like when presented with something like failure or a setback, you know, that would be the obstacle, right? Yeah. How do you react to it emotionally? What do you say to yourself? So things like that. So really looking at creativity and applying imagination as a skill, developing it like a muscle, and then applying it to things like your own life journey, the corporate environment, applying it to, you know, all kinds of other things.
I think you're ready to go, Marta.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Ready, set, go.
Okay, great. So, you know, in my world, people would be focused on topics like, what is creativity really? How do I apply this enormous, marvelous resource that I have within myself called the imagination? So many, in my world, that creativity and applying your imagination would be the most valuable energy type of thing that you could use to solve any particular issue or problem or setback or challenge. In my world, that it would be more educational than, you know, wanting to pursue things like jobs and careers and all of this nonsense that we have here already. It would really be more about discovering ourselves, discovering how our intuition and practicing our creativity could build beautiful resources for people where, you know, in my world, no one would have to work but just simply explore the beauty of life.
Time. Excellent. Excellent. Great. So here's what I'm writing notes like furious, you know. By the way, how does it feel to be just listened to, you know? How does that feel, Marta?
God, it's great. It's amazing. It's I feel like as I'm saying it and voicing it, you're not the only one hearing it, but really the universe, the spirit is hearing it, you know. All the invisible stuff that we take for granted that's still there working, all of that is, you know, being expressed.
Great.
So, yeah.
Great. So, yeah, here's what I heard, that creativity is the most valuable energy resource. So that's the thing. I mean, when you open those floodgates up, you know, it's easier to live a life with restriction, I think. You know, I mean, I often compare it to, like, you know, if I'm in a conversation or if I'm, you know, communing with someone, you know, who is of like mind and we're kind of, you know, building this creative riff off of each other, I don't mind doing stuff like housework or yard work or sanitation work or anything like that, you know, because I feel like my life is enriched. You know, even if I have to do some kind of mundane activity. We were talking before we started this recording how I believe enlightenment is the appreciation of the small and seemingly insignificant. Let me say that. I stuttered a little bit. Enlightenment is the appreciation and the observing of the small and the seemingly insignificant. So yeah, that's what I'm getting from this entire conversation with you, Marta, is, that form of enlightenment. And we can solve all of these problems if we're in a give and take, communication like this, in an exchange like this. Yeah. What you also said was the exploring, how the education, the exploring is just as valuable as, I'd say, I guess I'm going to use my words here, as in the administration or in trying to, trying to lead people. It's this constant state of discovery that we're all learning together. I think that just opens up the entire playing field, just opens everything up, where, we can free ourselves from what I call psychological slavery, where, we use greed and fear and anger, to keep each other in line. But if we can just open up the playing field, we can solve those problems through that creativity. So that's what I certainly heard loud and clear during your monologue there. Yes,
and right after you said all of that, I kept thinking, too, this idea of stillness and just beingness and slowing down, again, our listening, so that we could catch those small nuances, what some teachers have called mining for gold in the listening, when you're listening to people. And then Eckhart Tolle, I sort of meditate on this phrase from time to time, and it really does something to me. And it's, beauty arises in the stillness of your presence. Which, even when I say that, I have to become very, very still and present to get the value of that statement. So that's what you made me think as well.
Absolutely.
This idea of being heard, but also feeling very still and present, being very aware of all the little things, all the small things that are valuable, that we take for granted.
Yeah, and I think that feeling is also how you can discern whether or not someone is giving you energy or taking your energy.
Yeah.
So that is something that I notice a lot, in a competitive, I call it the competitive economy, is that, when you're in a situation that is built on greed and fear, you kind of feel like something's being taken away or you feel restricted. But when you're in an exchange where people are giving to each other, it opens up that, that sense of being present, I think, that sense of presence and knowing that everything you're doing and saying is being observed and appreciated and honored.
Yeah, very nice.
Great. Cool. Well, actually, you know what? I'm just going to do one more round of this, and then we'll wrap up because, this is about a half an hour at this point. So I'll also give a tag-on exercise at the end that the listener can also participate in if they want. But this time we're going to do In My World, or If I Ruled the World, and we're going to go back and forth, just listening, and we're just going to say the first thing that comes to our mind as we're listening and observing the other person. I say observing, we're on the phone, but yes, these exercises are intended to be, face-to-face as well. In fact, I think it could be even more powerful face-to-face. We did this during our 2x2 documentary film series that we were working on.
Yep.
So the listener, to you listening, I want to say, please, you can do this over the phone, but it's also very powerful if you do it face-to-face. We would love to hear your feedback about, your experience with these kinds of exercises face-to-face. Okay, so this is the If I Ruled the World, going back and forth version. So do you want to start off, or would you like me to start off, Marta?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. All right, great. So let me, I'm going to start the clock here in a few seconds. Okay. All right. If I ruled the world, I would let you, Marta, know how much I just appreciate, this moment to just be completely present with you.
Wow. Thank you. And it's in that phrase, if I rule the world, I'm getting, just in this exchange with you, that in my world, there would be no one ruler. We would both be the leaders, and those others who want to participate with us would also be leaders. We'd all be co-leaders and co-creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my world, it's all a cooperative collaboration.
Wow. In my world, again, collaborating on not one person trying to solve major problems, but small groups all collaborating, providing solutions for any issue or problem that exists.
Absolutely. And that's a minute. I want to go for one more minute because I'm really feeling this. Yes. Yes. In my world, we would find creative ways to apply this kind of communication to all problems that come up.
In my world, having said all that, I wonder if there would be any problems. There would be challenges. There would be challenges for sure, but I wonder if certain words like that would be eliminated.
In my world, people would understand that a lot of the conflicts we face politically, socially, whatsoever, is more emotional, more psycho-emotional than it is anything else.
Yes, in my world, given the work that I do, a stronger emphasis would be placed on what people consider soft skills. Those become the master skills in my world.
I love it. I love it. And that is 2 minutes right now. Great. Great. So we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes, but I would like to invite the listener as well that if you like, continue this conversation wherever it goes with your partners. Please let us know. Send me an email. And, we're trying to write a story. We're trying to create a documentary film about this entire process. So you are very much a part of it, you the listener.
Mike,
and we want to invite you.
You went south there first. We didn't hear you, so if you could just repeat that last thing.
Sure. Yeah, so as we wrap up here, I want to let the listener know that, we are in the process of writing a story about having conversations like this, and we want to invite you, the listener, to participate in that story, to let us know what these conversations are like as you participate with them in them with your partner. So we are, kind of continuing to write a book about this. We want to create a documentary film about this. So we would love to hear your feedback, love to hear what it is that comes up for you while you have these conversations, and invite you to be part of the story. I think what a lot of limitations are with like self-help programs or businesses or whatnot is that they try to create followers, but there's no there's no two-way communication between the leader and the followers. This is all a partnership, so we want to really we want to have more dialogues like this to solve whatever problems are coming up. So you are very much a part of this story. You personally, the one listening to this recording. So we want to hear what comes up for you and your partners as you continue this story along. We have one more activity that we're not going to do on this recording, but we'd love to have this conversation with you, where the final round is you start every sentence with what I'm passionate about. Okay, so you go for a minute or 2 minutes, whatever you want. There's no rules to this. This is really just a guideline. I think if anything, the listener, you figured out by now, there's no rules. There's no right or wrong. It's they're guidelines to help facilitate a productive conversation. So every sentence begins with what I'm passionate about. And then I'll let you take that where you want to. We're going to wrap up. So, before we go into our second conversation, our second call next week, called the Question Circle, I just want to call your attention to the article that came with this recording called "The Rejected X Prize: How to Encourage the Next Billion to Feed Themselves and Each Other." So I hope you'll take a look at that, and we'll see you on week 2 with the Question Circle. So Marta, we can stop the recording now, and we'll continue our talk offline.
Sure. Hold on one second.